Hey everybody, welcome back into the OSG garage. We've got a beautiful day here in Northern California, and kind of as promised, we're going to get into one of my favorite bikes, my KDX200. Come on in, we'll do a little bit of improvements on it if that's even possible. I really like my KDX. It's the perfect woods bike. This thing has basically a cult following too. Either you love them or you hate them, and most people absolutely love these machines. They're not particularly good at any one thing, but they're just good enough at everything. They got a great suspension for the woods. They're not oversprung, they're almost soft sprung. You don't want to take it on a motocross track, but in the trails and in the woods, it turns tight. It's got a great two-stroke motor that pulls just almost throughout the whole power band. And with a few additions like an FMF pipe and maybe even electron carb, you can make that even better. Today though, we're going to focus on one thing that this bike is that kind of challenges some of us that are altitudinally challenged, which is the seat height. Now, this bike has well over a 36 or 37 inch seat as set up, and even adjusting the sag and everything on it and taking a little bit of foam out, I can't get my feet on the ground. I'm 5'7" with about a 30-inch inseam, and you can see how that works. So I've got a somewhat of a solution I'm going to try today, and that is lowering links. Kouba lowering links. Now these are the number 2 position ones, which means they'll go down about 1.5 inches in the back end when the sag is set right. Now that, with possibly moving the forks up a little bit in the front end, should bring me so I can at least get both feet to touch at the same time. Now the one thing sometimes when you put lowering links on a bike like this is it will change the suspension characteristics. So I'm gonna do a little bit of a test to make sure that that's not the case. I want to lower it, but I don't want to give up the things that I really like on this bike. Nice piece of billet, anodized. They got the part number right here, KDX2, and on the back it actually says right and left, so you know which part goes on which side. I'm not sure that really matters, other than that their logo lines up, because they literally should be identical. You should be able to flip them either side. So it should be a relatively straightforward installation. I'm not going to bore you too much with all the details. Basically, we're going to pop off these 2 bolts here on the lowering link, and we're going to bolt in the new Kouba links. One side is a 14, and the bolts on the other side are 17s. And we've got to put the wrench on both sides here. Hold on one second. Keep that from spinning. And like that, one is off. Now to get the bolt off the other side, you might have to lift up the swing arm to get some of the pressure off it, and then the bolt and the plate should come off. The problem we might have here is we've got some stuff in the way. It could be an issue. One bolt, and in this case, you see this, but the chain slider here, the chain guard that's on there, is in the way. And there it goes. Well, that wasn't too bad. Get a little bit of that. Get that up and out of the way. Slide the other bolt out there. And you can see that this hole is lined up, and that's the offset distance from the 2 links. You can see it through that side too. And then, now we're gonna have to pick up the suspension in the back in order to line it up with the link because of the sag on it right now. Perfect. And that, my friends, is basically it. Gonna have to persuade this bolt a little bit. The rest will get through. And that is it. All right, so with the link installed in the back, now it's time to turn our attention to the front here. We're gonna take these forks and slide them up as much as we can here before this fork cap ends up hitting the bars. Now I've got a little bit of a riser here, so I should be able to get these things up about 3/4 of an inch. Now this is the part that's a little futzy. Because we've lowered the back 1.5 inches and the front maybe only 3/4 or an inch, we effectively change this rake on the suspension. And that's the thing you got to watch that you may or may not like on the handling. Now this thing already turns a little fast, so if anything, this is going to slack it out a little bit and maybe get it a little less twitchy and a little bit better at speed. We'll see. The first thing we're going to do is loosen up these fork boots. Here, there's a little clamp, and we'll just kind of slide those down. That's good. Do the other side. All right. Now sometimes on these forks, this area here is dished out. For instance, on the KDX here, you've got a sealing surface and a sealing surface, and this is dished out. So you can't move this too far up without clamping in here. On this fork here, I could probably only move it up 1/2 inch or so if I wanted to on the KX125 on the upside down fork. But on this one here, it shouldn't be an issue because this isn't relieved. And I think pretty much that's because this is a conventional fork. The cartridge is at the bottom, and that's an upside down fork with the cartridge is, you know, flipped upside down. So for the front fork clamps, it's pretty much 12mm. You loosen all 8 of them up. Not a lot of wrench swing on that one. Basically just pop it off the stand, and I got that much rise out of it right off the bat. What I noticed though is that one wants to come up a little higher than the other, so I'm going to try, and this one went right up to the underside of the bars here, and I don't think that's a good idea. So I'm going to back it off so there's about, I don't know, 1/4 inch gap or so. See if I can get it maybe a little smaller than this one, but I'm just going to kind of take some weight off of it here and see if it just doesn't drop down, and then I'll clamp that one in place. All right, so I got everything all tightened back up, and if you look here, this is how much we're sticking out. We are just under an inch, maybe 7/8 of an inch or so from where it was before. So now, with all of that being wrapped up, I gotta take a Phillips and fix the fork boots. I'm gonna slide the fork boots up, and then we're gonna check the sag. So sag is basically how much the rear shock compresses, and what they call static load, that's just the weight of the bike itself, and then how much it is in race or rider mode, which is you and your gear on top of the bike. Now, it's a little hard to measure when you're doing this by yourself, but I'll do the best I can. Now, when I originally did this bike, I had all the sags and everything set with the old suspension setup. What I don't know is what these lowering links are going to do to alter that. So I'm shooting for about 25 to 35 millimeters, or about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of static sag. And the way you measure that is, first, in the free state, it's got to be sitting on a stand, and you got to make sure that none of the suspension stuff is touching the stand, so it's definitely totally all the way down in its travel. You pick a point on the fender. In this case, I put a little Sharpie mark on here so I know exactly where to measure to consistently all the time. And I'm going from the underside of this bolt just because it's easy for me to hook. And the number I have here is 24 24 3/4 inch. The next thing you do is take the bike off of the stand, and just as the bike sits, give it a little bounce. Wow, that looks so low. I think we may have an issue here. You go back and check it again and see where we're at. We're at 22.5. Now, that gives me 2 1/4 inches of static sag. I think that's going to be a little too much. I'm shooting for 1 inch to 1.5 inches of static sag. So what I'm most likely going to have to do is go in here and mess with the preload on the shock. But before I do that, I'm going to sit on the bike and try and figure out getting it measured. Yeah, this is going to be interesting because that is way too low now. It's more than just the 1.5 inches that they advertised. So I'm going to attempt to do this with one person. This is definitely not something you should try at home because I probably will fall over at some point. But let's just take a quick measurement anyway. In the lowest setting I could possibly get. Yeah, we're down to under 20 inches now. So the problem with that is I only want a max of about 3.5 inches of total sag. And right now I'm at almost 4 1/4 or 5 inches of total sag. So with this lowering link, I'm going to have to come in here now and try and get the preload adjusted here on the rear shock. I got to put a few turns into that to get it cranked up. All right, after a bit of messing around, I'm going to give it a couple switches here. And I got it up from, I think it was 22 and change to about 23 and change. So we added about 1 inch to it. And here comes the fun part. Sitting on it, put some pressure on it. And we were at 22 before. This is always so hard to do yourself, people. I know they got really cool gauges for this. There's all kinds of tools and stuff. We were at 20 before, now we're at 21. About. So, I'm less than 4 inches of total sag, which, a little bit over 4 inches of total sag, which I'm okay with. I can definitely live with that. 5, no, but 4 I think we can live with. That's right about 110 millimeters, 4 and change. So we're gonna go try that, okay? All right, well, you can definitely see that I can touch the ground now. I can get both tiptoes on the ground. So look at the before and now the after. Both toes, actually the balls of my feet are on the ground, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. And the only thing left to do is go for a ride. We got a little tighter woods loop here we can go on. Not long, but just something to see what's what. So yeah, not bad at all, I gotta say. I don't play it so tight. Alright, not bad at all. Let's go the other way on this little guy here. Very good. I don't see much difference. No issue there. I would say that is a success. Not much difference at all. As far as handling goes. Well, for an initial little rip, I got to get 2 thumbs up there. It doesn't seem to be any much of a difference in the handling characteristics at all. Very nice. The best part is this: getting your feet down on both balls of your feet on the ground when you're sitting. So, 2 thumbs up, Kouba Links. That's going to be it for the OSG Garage today. Remember to hit like, share with your friends, subscribe if you haven't already, and I think we're going to do a rip around Georgetown here in the next couple weeks, just to make sure that there's no adverse issue here with them. But man, I got to tell you, it makes the bike a lot more fun for me, not worrying about not being able to touch the ground when you're starting it and getting on it and getting off it. Oh, don't forget to leave me some comments below. First of all, my bike is dirty, thank you, and I have an extremely suspect sag setting philosophy too, so I want to hear it all, guys. That's going to be it for the OSG Garage. Until next time, everyone, we'll see you later.